We're going to start here in just a minute. My name is Paige Wyatt, and I am one of the founders of the Heartland Society of Women Writers, and I want to welcome you to our monthly live chat with an author. Our featured author this month is Lanee. She has written 2 romance novels that are currently published, one being Perfect Curves, and the other being What Skylar Needs. And when she joins, we're going to have a Q&A session with her. If there are any questions that you have for her throughout the night, please feel free to drop them below, and I will make sure that I ask her. We are also announcing the winner of our giveaway of both of these books and this delicious chocolate and this lovely confidence and freedom scented candle, and it's actually an oak moss amber smell, and it's really nice and soothing. Lanee is here, so I'm going to go ahead and ask her to join me, and we are going to get started. Hi.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that I ask that too every time. It's like that's like the 2020 phrase. Can you hear me? Anyway, we're so happy to have you here. I was just doing a little introduction, talking about how you're a romance writer. You've written 2 novels that are published right now, What Skylar Needs and Perfect Curves. You can find both of those on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So just to get started, I'm just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about you, about your writing journey and how you got where you are now.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. No problem.
I want to make sure that you can actually see just more than just the top of my head.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, sorry. Ask me that again.
So tell us a little about you. Tell us about your writing journey. How did you get to where you are now?
Okay, so I have a background in journalism. I've always loved writing. I've always loved books since I was little. So it's kind of been a natural progression. I went to school for journalism, thought I was going to be a journalist. Not that I'm opposed to it still, but through that, I kind of realized, you know what? I kind of like telling a story because the type of stories I like to write as a journalist were more like telling people's story, like just showing what they do, what they love, and that kind of thing. I was like, So the more I read and stuff like that, I was like, maybe I could write a book. So I decided one day, I was like, yeah, why not? I needed I've always written like poems and stuff like that and kind of dabbled in stuff, but never followed through. But I heard about Wattpad and I was like, you know what? I needed an outlet. I had a really stressful job and I needed an outlet. So I was like, I'm just going to give it a go. And I started on there and it just that's when I really actually started like, oh, I might for real be able to do this. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I was going to ask you, you have a background in journalism, and I know that you went to a really good journalism school. How has that influenced your writing? Like, I know you said that you realized how much you love to write, as you were exploring your journalism path, but something that sticks out to me in your writing in particular is like your characters and how you create such realistic characters. So how has your journalism influenced your writing?
So when you do journalism, you interview a lot of different people, you talk to a lot of different people, you kind of learn questions to ask people, things like that to kind of dig deeper. So, and just like you kind of learn like core values, but I think interviewing skills and things like that have helped because you start to explore people, you learn things, you learn questions to ask, and you kind of ask yourself those kind of things when you're creating characters too. So I'd say that's probably where the biggest thing has came in. And then when I did do some like freelancing and stuff like that, I did a lot of actual, like I kind of said a minute ago, pieces where I wrote about people's things that they were doing or businesses and stuff, and you kind of learn to just tell a story. So you learn a lot about people, quirks, storytelling and stuff, even just from journalism.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I can tell because that was going to be my next question. So your characters are so well developed. How do you create such realistic characters? Because I've read both of these books, and something that really sticks out to me is that both of the women feel like they could be just regular people. They're not like unrealistic, like depictions of, you know, like Wonder Woman type people, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it's so refreshing in a romance to read about somebody that is just normal and goes through normal problems and like thinks normal thoughts and has normal insecurities. So how do you get such realistic characters in your book? Because I think that's something that a lot of us writers strive for.
So that to me, a realistic, relatable character is like one of my absolute number one main priorities. When I read a book, like there, especially when I was like getting into, I used to read my mom's books all the time and sign into her Kindle, but as I started kind of like reading books myself, I found myself wanting to see somebody that looked like me. Like, I'm definitely plus size, I'm black, like I don't have this high paying job, I'm not falling in love with the billionaire. Like, those things
Mm-hmm.
are great, but like I wanted to see people like me falling in love and having lives and just portray everyday people, because you want to see yourself in these fairy tales, you know? So to me, it's super important to make sure I am portraying that. So I look at the people around me in my life and kind of tailor it and tailor people I meet and see. I might just see somebody coming off an elevator and be like, that's a good person. I could go somewhere with that. And I may start making up a whole thing in my head. So,
That's
yeah.
really cool. That is so cool. I love that you take real life and you try to put it in your books because I think that's what makes your books special. Especially in the romance genre when it's really easy to sometimes get caught up in just this very fairy tale-esque type thing, but you take the modern and you make it magical, and I think that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask, speaking of romance, and I think you kind of answered this on your Takeover Tuesday, but what drew you to write romance specifically? Because you're a journalist, writer, um, and there are a lot that opens you up to a lot of different genres. So why romance and not like literary fiction or women's fiction or memoir or something like that?
First of all, nobody wants a memoir of me, but that'll be a hot mess. But romance, my mom, it's like I'm really close with my mom, and kind of going back to what I said earlier, and like you said, for my life, I love love. Like I love love. I've loved it forever. I love seeing people fall in love, love stories. I used to fall asleep making up stories. Like if I couldn't sleep, I would just be making up stories in my head. Like, and then my mom, she's always had just like bookcases full of books. That's her and her mom, like one of the things they bonded over. And she just always read romance, and I would read her books. I started out, back in the day, Babysitter's Club. There used to be these
Mm,
Party of Five books I would read.
yeah.
So, so I've always read it. I love it. And it is, how you have something that you're just passionate about? Romance books, even before writing them, are just my passion, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
it was natural.
I love that it's a bonding experience with your mother because I think the romance genre, while not exclusive to women, is definitely something that women can bond over. Like it's a genre that most women have read. It's a genre that a lot of women appreciate. So I think that's really cool that you use that as like your jumping off point to where you are now. I love that. Speaking of where you are now, so one of the things I noticed and one of the things that you mentioned is that your books are own voices books. And for those of you that don't know what that means that the books feature characters, specifically main characters, who fall in the same demographics as the person who writes it. Usually it's a BIPOC person or someone who's LGBTQIA+. But in your case, these are Black women. So why was that important to you to write own voices novels specifically?
So I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian area. Like in my graduating class, I can count on one hand how many other African Americans there were, Black people, whatever you want to say. So there wasn't a lot of diversity. Top that on media, there's a lack of diversity, not with just Black people, but, you know, everything, all different races, ethnicities, LGBTQ plus, everybody. There is a lack of representation, disabilities, everything. But it was even worse back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggled a lot with my self-confidence and my self-worth and the image of myself, like seeing myself as somebody that could be beautiful or desirable or something like that, because I didn't see myself in the media. So to me, I try to think about what I wanted to see and needed to see at my age. And even as a grown woman, like seeing myself or somebody like me, Black, plus size, what have you, it's super important, because seeing yourself as a child and, adolescence helps form who you think of yourself as an adult, So it's super important to me to make sure I am putting out in the world what I wanted to see and still want to see, and something that can impact other people.
Absolutely. And while I don't think, the publishing, and we're going to get into that later, the publishing world is where it should be at all. I love that you just took charge and you were like, I'm just going to self-publish this. These stories need to be out in the world. I want to put them out. And you talked a little bit about the process of self-publishing before in your Takeover Tuesday, so we're not going to go back through all of that. But what are some of the benefits that you found of self-publishing, and like what are some of the drawbacks? You kind of touched on these a little bit, but I think it's really awesome that you went ahead and just did it, So what were some of the benefits, drawbacks of that?
So some of the benefits I would say is you definitely can put out what you want to put out. There's no gatekeeping. So it's definitely important to kind of research your genre and stuff to make sure that you're kind of falling into what people want. But a lot of times I've heard, even in a lot of the author groups I'm in, people have been turned down by traditional publishers and things like that, saying that this isn't what the market wants, and they self-publish it, and it is what the market wants. So I think it's super important and nice to be able to produce something that you feel like people need. You are in complete control. You definitely, I like as far as like the business side of it, you have the opportunity to make a bigger portion of your, what's it called? Royalties, and things like that. So those are big perks to it. You can produce at your own pace as well. If you want to produce 6 books a year, you can do that, opposed to, traditional publishing is a little slower. Some cons are going to be is you are on your own for editing, paying for those things, paying for your book covers. If you are a person of color, sometimes finding book covers isn't as easy, and that kind of goes back to the own voices and representation. And then you have to do, I think with traditional publishing, from I hear a lot, you have to do a lot of your own marketing anyway, but it's all yourself. So you are the creative person and you're the business person. So it can be a little overwhelming sometimes too, learning the ropes. So there's good and there's bad.
Yeah. Wow. That is a lot, but it sounds like you had some success. You had, on Wattpad over 1 million reads on Perfect Curves, which is awesome. And I that's actually where I found you, and I read Perfect Curves as you had been putting it out. And then I know when you put it all in one book, you kind of made, revisions and changes a little bit, but, I thought the Wattpad thing was really cool. So talk a little bit about that community. Like, what was that like for you to see, your work just blow up like that?
So it was insane, because I actually started another story that's still on there unfinished. Sorry if you read it, guys. Called Living Gunner. So I started that, and it was really slow going. And just one day on a whim, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start this other story about this girl who's like, goes to the gym and blah, blah, blah. And I just started it, and it picked up really fast. Like, I was really, really shocked. And with Wattpad, people can interact with your story. As soon as you write it, they can go in and they can comment on each line that you write and react. And it was just insane, because my phone was blowing up once it started growing traction. I would have messages and messages. I'd be at work trying to look at my phone, reply to people, keep track. And it was just insane. How sometimes you will think, okay, I can do this, but your self-confidence in the back of your mind, you just have imposter syndrome, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a group of people hyping you up, and it almost got overwhelming because you get afraid that you're not going to be able to perform. So
Mm-hmm.
but it was awesome because you were getting like feedback immediately. And it was fun. It was fun talking to those people all the time, the readers and stuff. It was fun. They definitely want you to produce fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it helped me with my productivity. Like, I've never written faster in my life. And then I started doing What Skylar Needs at the same time on there. But I had started that for Nano the year before, so I had some of that written. So that kind of helped, and that kind of started going up too. It was definitely a fun experience. It was overwhelming sometimes because it was so important to me to try to respond to everybody. But it was fun. Overwhelming sometimes, but fun.
That is cool because not a lot of writers get that experience of it's almost like a live reading. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't really get to you put your writing out there and you put it out there for people to read and you hope they like it. And sometimes they come back and they give you feedback. Sometimes they'll write you messages or something, but usually like you don't get to hear from all your readers. But that sounds like it was just happening in real time, which to me would be insane. That's so
Yeah, it was.
cool.
And then I like built-in beta readers, so it was awesome. Like some of the things I thought I was gonna write, I would sway it because I could get a vibe from the readers. I'm like, okay, they're thinking it's going this way, so I might do it this way. Or I'm like, oh, I don't think they're gonna take this the way I want them to, so I do it this way. So they had a big impact about like the way Perfect Curves turned out. So that was cool too.
Yeah, I was watching the comments as I was reading it and people being like giving you suggestions or here's what I think is going to happen. And I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was
It
so
was.
cool. Yeah. Is that something that you think you might go back to, or is it kind of oh, I've done it and now I'm kind of like going to just focus on traditionally writing?
So I kind of go back and forth with it. So every once in a while on the author groups I'm in, I'll go back in there and kind of like search. You know, you can search keywords. I'll search Wattpad to see if other people have been doing it and stuff. I've heard some stuff about plagiarism recently,
Mm,
so it makes me a little scared to go back into it. But I go back and forth because I really do want to finish the book that's on there. It was kind of starting to grow some traction too, but sorry, guys, I'll let you down on that one. I want to get to the end as well. So I don't know. Probably want to kind of do some more research or kind of get a vibe for it, but it's always on the table because it was fun and my productivity was through the roof when I was doing that.
that's awesome. I am going to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of your non-writing related activities. So you have a lot of hobbies. So what's something that you love to do that's not related to writing at all?
One thing I love to do that's not related to writing at all is sewing.
Well, that's
I
awesome.
sew a lot.
That is so cool. Yeah, I saw on your business page, and if you want to link it, or we can link it for you if you want, that you made like a t-shirt quilt, which is really cool.
I did. That was fun. That was the first, like, I've made blankets, but that was the first t-shirt quilt I made, and it was fun. I like a challenge because I am a hardcore DIYer,
Hmm.
not even just like decor stuff. Like if I think I can do it, I'm Googling and I'm doing it. Like changing my car battery, I was like, I can do this. Like, so I like a challenge,
That's
and
awesome.
that
I
challenge
love
was
it.
fun.
I love it. That's so cool. I think it's really important for creative people to have other creative outlets, like not just writing, because sometimes writing can be so hard to do. Um,
Absolutely.
one of our followers asked that, how do you create when the will to do so is really minimal? Like, especially when you have hard years or hard times, but you still keep going. So, how do you do that, either in sewing or in writing?
So that is an awesome question. Not to kind of go down a rabbit hole or anything, but another thing that I am pretty passionate about is like mental health. Um, and it kind of comes into play with like writing and stuff like that when you're overwhelmed. I definitely struggle with that myself. So I have this issue a lot. One of the things I try to do, sometimes I just sit down and I just write a little bit, like even if it's not a lot, I'll just write a little bit, or I'll like kind of try to plan out. I'm not a huge plotter, like at all, which is, I try to change that, but it doesn't go well. So I will try to like plot out what's going next, because sometimes that does help me kind of push myself. And then like journaling and things like that, just doing something that has nothing to do with it. Watching TV shows that are like not real, because I'm a reality TV junkie.
Me too.
Watching something that's not reality TV, reading a book, something that just kind of gets you excited about it again. Those are some of the things I try to do.
Yeah, look for inspiration. I love that. I also love reality TV. My current obsession is 90 Day Fiance.
We have been watching them all.
I know. They're so good. It's so hard to look away.
It's a train wreck you can't look away from, but there's a lot of inspiration in that show.
Yes, there is a ton of inspiration. I actually was going to tell you, like, you should write a 90 Day Fiance based type of
My
book.
husband was just telling me that. You got a whole book on this. I was like, it'll be a hot mess, but I kind of like where you're going with that.
You totally should. That would be great. Not telling you what to write or anything, but I love that show. So what are some of your biggest inspirations for writing and life in general? These can be authors. They can be women that you find inspiring. Like, what inspires you?
So definitely, like I said, going back to my mom, she is a huge inspiration. Some authors that I really love. One of the first authors I ever read that had somebody that looked like me, that made me like, oh, wow, I can be in a book. Brenda Jackson. Awesome author. She's an African-American author. She wrote this. She was in there are 4 authors in an anthology. And a lot of those authors in there were ones that I definitely read quite a bit when I first started out reading. Frances Ray. Another person I really, really love her books. And I would love to be like an author like her is Mariana Zapata. She writes like slow burn romances, and I love them so much.
Yeah, I love those too.
So good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those are, I find inspiration. Those are some of my main people. I'm not like probably my main ones.
That leads me to another question. Do you read outside of your genre that you write in? Because like I know, so I write YA. I'll be honest with you, I don't read a whole lot outside of my genre. If it's up to me, it's always my go-to. Like I read all different subgenres like contemporary, fantasy, sci-fi, but I mostly stay in the YA world, and I'm going to try in 2021. That's one of my goals, is to branch out more. But I have read some romances that I enjoy as well. But what about you? Do you read outside of romance, or do you, mostly stick to that because that's what you love?
So I used to be a lot like you, but with romance, I would read subgenres, but it was romance or nothing. But I really, surprisingly, because I'm a scaredy cat, I love thrillers. In the last like 3 or 4 years, I started like reading and listening to thrillers, and I love them. Like they're so good. But I like Dateline and stuff too. So that makes sense. So I like thrillers. I don't really read too much outside of that. I'll read like women's fiction, but it can teeter on romance anyway. But mostly romance, all subgenres pretty much. There's some I don't. And then thrillers.
That's awesome. I like a good thriller too. I have not read a good one recently. Can you recommend one? What's one of your favorites that you've read recently?
Yeah. I just read My Lovely Wife. Oh my gosh. You have to read it. And then when you read it, you guys message me or comment and talk to me about the ending.
Okay. Okay. What's it called again? One more time.
It's called My Lovely Wife.
My Lovely Wife. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
I downloaded it. You can get it from the library. I downloaded the audiobook and the book.
Nice.
When I was walking the dog, I was listening. When I was in the house, I was reading.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I will put that on my list. That's awesome. I'm on break right now because I teach in my daytime job, and I need books to read. So I will definitely check that one out. Thank you for that rec. I'm going to turn back to the Own Voices topic, and the topic of being specifically a Black woman writer, because you're our first Black woman writer that we've had. And I think that perspective is really important to elevate. So if you're comfortable with me asking you a few questions about that, we'll go ahead and narrow the lens a little bit. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right, cool. So, how do you think that the publishing industry, because we've talked a little bit about this, like even self-publishing world, the romance writing world, how do you think that they can be more inclusive of women of color who are writers, specifically Black women writers? Because I just recently read an article, and I cannot remember where, maybe The Atlantic, that said that out of all the books that were published last year, only 5% were published by people of color, and an even smaller percentage, and I can't even remember what that percentage of 5% were published by Black women, which is really sad because that's a whole market, that's a whole group of people that is not being reached and represented fairly. So what are some things that you think, just from your perspective, your time being in this writing world, that the publishing industry should do to be more inclusive of people like you?
So I think, and there are some that are kind of like doing this, but I think like Harlequin, they have like a whole call for authors of color, and I think that's awesome. I think that a lot more places need to be kind of reaching out to do that. It's sad that you have to do that because, and that's part of the problem. There's such a line of division there because a book is a book to me. Of course, some things are going to have different representations, and that's the point of own voice because people have different lives and different backgrounds. But, you know, reaching out, those calls of actions, stop acting like there aren't Black people that want to read, because I think that that is a big thing. They're like, oh, well, Black people don't want to read. Yeah, we do. Black people want to read. People of different races want to read. And hiring people within those companies that understand that are of different, you know, backgrounds and races, ethnicities, and things like that. So they have representation within their own company. That's important. Because there was recently like a whole Twitter stream. I don't get on Twitter that much, but there's a whole Twitter stream of people talking about advances they got for books and things like that. Women, like kind of going back to what you said, had a lot lower advances than men, and Black women and other women of color, they're pennies on the dollar compared to other people. So you have, and Romance of America recently had some issues with racism within the organization. I think you have to look it in the eye and realize, hey, our systems are broken, and actually work to fix them. So stop pretending like we don't exist. Stop pretending like we don't want to read, and stop pretending like we don't write and we don't have something to say. There's a book for everybody. So I think it's important that you can't just keep looking at the small lens. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect results.
Absolutely. And as a teacher, I can tell you that one of the things that we talk about frequently is exposing our white students to different authors from different backgrounds. So not only like, you know, do we need to put books out there by people of color and women of color and Black women for other people of color to see themselves, but like it's good for white people to be exposed to different types of writing and different perspectives too. And I love that what you said about hiring people in those positions of power, like more agents who are women of color or Black women, more people who are editors who are people of color. I mean, that's important because those people are going to seek out those stories, you know.
I'm not trying to open our voices either.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking on that a little bit more, how do you think that being a Black woman writer impacts your opportunities in the self-publishing and romance community in general? So have you experienced any of the, I guess, like we were saying, some of the romance writers of America, kind of the racism, the prejudice, and if that has been your experience, what changes would you like to see in that community? Other than just like, we talked more about the publishing world, but like in the community in general as well, like, especially self-publishing, especially romance.
So I think with romance, what you said about your students kind of hits the nail on the head of the first thing I'm thinking. I feel like a lot of times people like me, because like I said, with the whole own voice thing, the reason why it was so important to me to write is because I wanted to see myself. I feel like a lot of people are reluctant to read, like people that are not of color are reluctant to read books by people of color or with main characters that are people of color because they can't relate. But on the other hand, here I've read plenty of books with nothing but Caucasian cast and things like that. And I don't have a problem with that. I can understand we might not be the same skin color, but the story is good. So I feel like there is such a stigma with not being able to relate, you know, with people of color in books, and that does make it harder sometimes as a Black author. It's even made me question sometimes, like, oh, should I start another pen name where I do write just like a full white cast, or do I stay the course? I'm always gonna write African American characters, but it does make you think, well, if I want to do this for a long term, is that what you have to do? Do you have to play games in a way? And I hate to say that, but you do think that, and you do kind of feel that. And then I have my brain, I always forget what I'm thinking.
It's okay.
The other thing I'm kind of thinking, oh goodness, give me a second.
Oh, you're fine.
I am the worst.
And that's okay. I mean, it's an important topic, and that's something that I never thought about because I'm not a Black woman, you know, like I've never thought about having to write characters that were different from me, like to sell books. You know what I mean? Like it's not ever something that I personally have to worry about. And that's a good point that you bring up. Like, should I write, you know, that's something that's sad that you have to think that way. Like, should I write white main characters so that I can sell more books? It's just unfortunate that that's the position that you feel like, you know, that they've put you in this genre specifically. And like you said, you know, it doesn't really matter the race of the character. You can always read a good story is a good story, you know?
Exactly. I feel like the other way around, I'm like, I read it, it's fine. I do also, on my Amazon page, it's weird, but I was, as I do in one of my author groups and like researching and all this stuff, I used to have on my Amazon page, I had a picture of myself, but I read some things, and it goes back to that people not wanting to necessarily read people of other races and things like that. I changed my Amazon picture to just my logo, just because it kind of leaves that mystery. I saw some other authors saying that they did that, and I was like, let me give it a try and see if it makes a difference. Like, it's sad that you are kind of have to play these games, and like, even like the covers of your books, I am heavy into watching TikToks, which I'm sure a lot of people are. And there's a couple of authors on there that are authors of color, and a gal the other day was saying something about how you have to have, like, they talk about her having white characters on her books and things like that. But when you're a self-published author, it really is hard to find African American characters for the front of your book. And on top of it all, a lot of times that can affect your sales too, which I don't care about that. I'm writing African American characters. I want African American characters on my books if I can, but it's really hard to find like those pre-made covers without it being so expensive and things like that. So even going down to like when you're looking for things to make the best product, it's really hard to find what you're looking for. Where there's a plethora of, Caucasian characters and things on these books. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of affects being an author and things like that you don't have to think of sometimes, but as a Black author you do, or an author of color you do.
Yeah, and that's really, again, it's sad that you have to take the picture down. It's sad that you can't find the cover that you want. And then also I've heard Black authors speak before about being, like they would write something in, say, the romance genre, the thriller genre, but it would get, because they're a Black author, it would be put in like a category of African American fiction. It's not put in those commercial categories. It's instead reassigned to African American fiction, and not therefore advertised as much, not therefore put in bookstores and front and center. And I think people are trying to change that, but it's still not quite happening the way that it should, Yes. And that's something that I've talked to authors before, and they've said, I just don't want my book to be shoved in the back of the store in the African American literature section and not put where people can see it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which is a twofold issue. Why are the African American books like so shunned in the back of the store? But that goes back to what we were talking about before. And also, why can't I be in both? Like when you do self-publish, you have the option to pick different categories and stuff like that. And I always, I do interracial and stuff, but I also do contemporary romance. But it is hard. Like you are like, I do want my stuff to be at the top. I want it to be at the front. It can be an African American in the category, but it can also be contemporary and be popular and be something you're pushing. They don't have to be separate.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people want to see. And that's what I would love to see.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that it's going to continue to shift that way. Like people are going to continue to pull. And I think a lot of people are worried right now that, the enthusiasm and the strides that Black authors are trying to make in the publishing industry are going to be forgotten about, or publishing is going to move on, and that's something that you always worry about too. But I'm glad that you're talking about these issues, because again, like as a Black woman author, it affects you and it affects all of us in the market too. It really does.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything else on that topic. Is there anything else on that topic that you wanted to say before we move on to some of the more silly, random things and kind of close this out?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we covered a little bit of good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that was good. Thank you for sharing that stuff and talking freely about your perspective. I do appreciate it, and I know our viewers do too. So we're gonna talk about some inspiration that you might want to give someone else. So like, what advice would you give to an aspiring woman writer, or even specifically a Black woman writer who wants to self-publish their book? Like, what's one piece of advice that you would pass off to someone who is in your shoes?
So my advice would be, do not get discouraged, and it's inevitable, but do not give up. Somebody needs to hear your voice. Write the book. Don't worry about the imposter syndrome. We all have it. Just keep going and reach out. If you have questions, like the author community, you are going to have those big authors that you're not going to be able to contact, like Nora Roberts and stuff, but most generally everybody wants to see each other succeed. So reach out to people if you have questions. If you just need some encouragement, reach out to people. I know I'm bad about it because I'm not shy, but I am definitely self-conscious. But I would help anybody if they ever asked. So just push yourself. Do not give up.
Hey, you're kind of cutting out a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Go ahead. Sorry. Repeat what you said like 10 seconds ago.
So I was just saying, definitely feel free, ask people within the writing community if you need help. If there's an author you really like and you have any questions, a lot of authors are more than willing to answer questions about like you have. And a lot of us are just trying to figure it out ourselves too. So, we're all humans. We're all trying to do what we love and to help each other. So don't be scared. Just do it.
Yes, do it. That's excellent advice. I think I read a tweet one time that said the difference between a successful author and an unsuccessful author is a successful author keeps writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unsuccessful author stops. So as long as you keep going, I think that's really important. So I love that. I love that message. We have a couple of goofy questions, Christmassy, okay, holiday related. A few of them asked by some. Oh, can you see me? Sorry.
Yep,
still there? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So first one, sugar cookies. Are they gross or are they delicious?
Delicious.
Yeah, that's what I think too. What's your favorite kind of Christmas lights or decorations?
I like I have these Christmas lights I've had since I was a kid, and they're colorful, they blink, and they play Christmas music. And my husband judges me every year that they still work. But
that's so cool.
I love them.
And you've had them since you were a kid? Is that what you said?
Yes, they have been. I don't know how they're still kicking, but they work.
That's so awesome. I have my mom's tree that she bought in 1997. I still use it. Yeah. So I love those old Christmas traditions. I love that.
Yes, me too.
What's the largest food that you would consider bite-sized? That's kind of a tough one.
A chip? A pizza roll?
A pizza roll?
Oh my God. A cookie, maybe.
A
Depends on the
cookie.
size.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I can eat like an Oreo cookie. I can eat that
Yes.
in one bite.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
That's a good one. Another question we have, if you're ready for this, do you do you believe in ghosts?
Oh, no, I'm not ready for that. I don't know. It scares me to think about. So, I sometimes read these books at night or watch these scary things, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna walk out of my room and there's gonna be like this looming thing. So I don't know. I will just try not to think about it, okay?
You just would rather not think about them.
Yeah,
So you hope you don't believe in ghosts, right?
right.
Yeah, we always have one person that asks that of like everyone. Um, Another question we have, favorite Christmas movie?
A Christmas Story.
Ah, that's a classic. Definitely a classic. Do you ever watch it on is it TNT that they show it 24 hours?
Heck yes.
Yes, so good. Another one, do you have pets? We know about one of them. Tell us a little bit about your pets.
He's right here. His name is Bernie. Bernie is like a American staffer. Everybody thinks he's a pit bull, but he's like mixed with all kinds of stuff. He's crazy. He's brindle, and he
Oh,
is a mama's boy.
he is so
He was
cute.
walking in the room, and he came out like he was freed from like prison or something. He's not happy he walked away.
He does have some personality, I've noticed on your page. He's cute. Here's one you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay.
How old are you? Someone asked.
Oh, I'm older than 30, younger than 40.
I like that, and I'm gonna steal that. Okay, I'm gonna steal that answer. Older than 30, younger than 40. I'm gonna say that because my students ask me all the time, "How old are you?"
I hate that question so much. I'm like, I'm not old, but I'm like, don't worry about it.
Here's another silly question. How many Pokemon can you name?
Pikachu.
One Pokemon? Yeah, I probably can't name that many either.
I think my husband maybe does, but I don't.
I don't think we have any more questions, but thank you all to everybody that submitted those. And the last thing I'll say before we go, what else should we look forward from you from the future? Is there anything like coming out soon or anything you want us to watch for?
Yes, so I am working on finishing Skylar's brother's book, Brendan. So I will commit to publishing it in 2021. And then I have a series coming out that is very based off of everyday experiences in my life, but it's going to be really cool. You guys will you won't know, but it's interesting. It's going to be a series of brothers. So I have another series I'm working on too. So look out for this.
Okay, awesome. It sounds like you got some cool plans for the next coming year, and we'll keep an eye out and let us know. We'll be happy to plug those too on our page. Before we go, I want to announce, well, you can announce the winner of our giveaway. So we are giving away four things. We're giving away a copy of What Skylar Needs. We're giving away a copy of Perfect Curves, which is, both of these are really good. I've read them both. We are also giving away this lovely Confidence and Freedom candle. And I picked this specifically to go with the confidence that your main characters have in their books. I love that. And it's an oak moss amber smell. And then we are also giving away a little mini box of Lindor truffles, and these are so good. It's assorted kinds, so it's the best chocolate. So do you want to go ahead and announce who won?
I do. So the winner is right here in the room right now. Username Witwit_11.
Yay! Witwit11, you won. Congratulations. We will be in touch with you to get your shipping address so that we can mail off your prize package. Hopefully sometime this week before the holidays, but you probably won't get it till after the holidays because, you know, mail's crazy right now. But before we go, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. This was so fun. And
it was fun.
Yeah, I love talking to you, and I can't wait to have you back sometime.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. You have a good night. Bye.
Bye, guys.